Back again with another honor review, and today we're going to talk about Stay Hungry. And this is a film that I'd heard about before because of the cast, and that's really the more interesting aspect you can take from this film, because at the end of the day, I just felt it was what it was, maybe a time waster, but I don't see myself revisiting this film anytime soon or down the line. But when you look at this cast, check this out. You got Jeff Bridges in the film, Sally Field, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robert Englund. And those four names, think about it. This is the mid-'70s. And 4 decades later, we still know these names. Each name went on to become a big star. And there's some other, supporting players throughout the film that I didn't expect to see, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But who would have thought you would have had The Big Lebowski, The Terminator, and Freddy Krueger in the same movie? But you did, in this little film here. But yeah, it's a quirky movie. It's a weird one, but I'll get more into that. So let's get into the plot and then some other stuff. The plot to the film, basically you have our main character played by Jeff Bridges, and he's this young heir from Alabama, and he becomes involved with a shady real estate deal. And in order to close the deal, he has to buy a gym building to complete a multi-parcel lot. And at this gym, you have the receptionist, played by Sally Field. You have this Austrian bodybuilder, this character played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And his character's training for the Mr. Universe competition. And our main character is drawn by his carefree lifestyle. And from there, our main character, lives his life carefree, becoming romantically involved with a receptionist, again played by Sally Field, and, hanging out with Arnold, and just, living that carefree life, pretty much. And that's the plot here. Now, the guy who directed this film, Bob Rafelson, before this, he directed some episodes of The Monkees. He directed the film Five Easy Pieces, which I've heard about that film. I know it's with Jack Nicholson. He did direct that. Someday I would like to check out that film. He also directed a film called Black Widow. Not the new Black Widow, but there was another film called Black Widow back in 1987. He did direct that. And this film was written by Charles Gaines. Now, Charles Gaines would become the narrator for the documentary Pumping Iron, which, Arnold would do a year later. And it's really interesting because, in this film quite a bit, it features some of that competition, this era of bodybuilding. Even you have a couple of cameos in here from a couple of the bodybuilders that you would see in that documentary, Pumping Iron. So it's really interesting, if you want to say, in a way, this is sort of a precursor to that, sort of a nice little appetizer for what you would see in Pumping Iron. But yeah, so the writer for this film would become the narrator for Pumping Iron. So again, it's interesting. Now, as far as the direction of the film, it's a little, all over the place. Like I said, it's a quirky movie. It's definitely an off-kilter piece of film because of the direction and the way the dialogue is delivered throughout the film. It's very, weird. And that's one thing with the screenplay, too. It's sometimes it's really hard to follow. Like, you don't know, like, when the actors, deliver the dialogue, it's going all these crazy directions, and it's just a very, woozy, quirky movie. I don't know how to describe the direction here, but I wanted to mention the director and writer. Now, talking about the cast here, again, Jeff Bridges' character, he's the main character. And it's pretty much his film. If you're going in expecting this to be an Arnold film, you're not going to get that. He plays his buddy throughout the film, but it's more of a Jeff Bridges' film. And I thought he did fine in the film. Sally Field. I thought she was fine, and I actually liked their chemistry. I thought they had a nice chemistry, and Sally Field is definitely young here. There's a couple of scenes where you see her bare backside, and yeah, she was cute in the film. Arnold Schwarzenegger, definitely better here than Hercules New York. He's definitely improved by this point, and I thought, his character, he was having some fun here with this role, and I wonder what Arnold would think about this film now. Like if you were to, ask Arnold about this film, what would be his thoughts on this film? Robert Englund, again, he's in the film for a little bit, and he's fun. And the thing that, I really picked up from the performances here is that, with Jeff Bridges and, Sally Field and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robert Englund, you can tell, like, even at this time, just the way they played these characters were so carefree. And you got a sense of, fun, from this time, and being young actors at this time, and you could just tell that there was something special about these people, whether it be Jeff Bridges, Sally Field, Schwarzenegger, Robert Englund, being young actors, and just again, the way the performances were, definitely carefree, and it kind of makes you smile a little bit, because as odd as this film is, as weird and quirky as this film is, throughout, but I liked some of the performances here, and even like some of the supporting players that you see throughout the film. Like, hey, there's that guy, Scatman Crothers from The Shining. Yeah, he's in this film, and yeah, he has a small part. R.G. Armstrong, who would later be in Predator with Arnold in the beginning, he's in this film. Roger E. Mosley, yeah, T.C. from Magnum P.I., he's in this film. Ed Begley Jr. has a small part. Joe Spinell is in this film. And so, again, a lot of interesting, supporting players, and I already mentioned how, you get a couple of appearances from a couple of the bodybuilders that you would see in Pumping Iron. So, and that happens more at the end of the film. But the cast overall, I would say with the cast, they do fine, and I think you can see they're having fun making this film. As off kilter, the story is, and the direction is, and some of the other elements in the film. The one thing I can say about the performances is that you can tell, being this young, being young stars, and, you can see they're having fun on screen. And, yeah, so I thought, I liked some of the actors here, and even the chemistry between Jeff Bridges and Arnold, I thought was fun. So, yeah, I didn't mind the performances here. Now, as far as mentioning moments, stuff that maybe I didn't mind, in the beginning, you see Arnold, working out with Jeff Bridges in the gym. I thought that was a little fun. They had a fun little banter going on, and even, throughout the film, a lot of the scenes those two have, I thought they had a fun rapport. The chemistry between Jeff Bridges and Sally Field, I thought was nice. And there's this one scene that I remember where Jeff Bridges, his character, steals a painting for Sally Field, and I thought it was a fun little scene. But then as the film goes along, you definitely get into some weird territory. I mean, you got Arnold playing the fiddle in a bluegrass band, while wearing this weird outfit. Yeah, that happens in the film. And you got a scene later on where these guys, they break into the gym, and they're trashing the place. Robert Englund tries to stop them. He gets cornered, and his character gets nailed in the nuts with a pool cue. And if you could somehow find that clip out there, I don't know if it'll be on YouTube, but Yeah, that's a funny scene because it's just so random. It's very random and very weird, very weird, but at the same time, it's a little funny to see Robert Englund get nailed in the nuts with the pool cue. And again, if you could somehow find that clip, if it's out there, go check it out. But after that, you get some very weird scenes in the gym with R.G. Armstrong's character and Roger E. Mosley, because R.G. Armstrong is his trainer, but they're trying to do it with these two girls in the gym with these hookers, and it's kind of borderline rape. And I don't know why you needed those scenes in the film, but those scenes were I didn't know what to make of those scenes. Very weird. And then after that, because one of the girls gets away, they run into Jeff Bridges, and Jeff Bridges wants to go after R.G. Armstrong. So they get into a fight in the gym, and R.G. Armstrong is throwing these weights and dumbbells at Jeff Bridges. And I don't know, just the way it was choreographed, I got a couple of chuckles out of watching those two go at it. And R.G. Armstrong is trying to kill Jeff Bridges, with these weights and stuff. And they're just throwing each other around and, on furniture and, all over the place. And it's just, the way that was choreographed and filmed, I thought it was a little funny. But you got a lot of, as the film goes along, it definitely, goes into those territories of what the is going on? I mean, it's a very weird and eccentric. Now, as far as closing thoughts in the film, again, I would say at the end of the day, it's interesting to watch because of the cast, because of how young they are, and you can definitely see here, I mean, being young and carefree, and it really, comes through with their performances. So if anything, I would say watch it for that. I mean, there's a couple of moments that, scenes that made me chuckle, but, and there's some decent chemistry between the main character and Sally Field, and, Arnold has some moments of fun, but it goes into a lot of crazy directions, even with the dialogue. I can't really describe what they were going for with the dialogue. I really don't know what to make of this screenplay. I mean, I haven't read the novel again, but I don't know. I thought the screenplay needed work, serious work. I thought it was flimsy at times with the way it was written and muddled, along with the direction. But, so, I mean, it's an off-kilter movie. That's the best way to describe it. It's not a film that I'm going to revisit anytime soon, but it was an interesting watch, and that's pretty much it. So that's my review of Stay Hungry. I hope you enjoyed this review, and next I'll be talking about the documentary Pumping Iron. So hope you look forward to that. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.